the explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into something that absolutely defies how most of us live our lives right now. I mean, in a world where we're basically always fighting exhaustion, doom scrolling on our phones until we finally just pass out, there is this ancient practice that asks people to do the exact opposite. We're talking about a night of intentional sleeplessness, some truly amazing food, and intense laser-like focus. Let's get right into the unique banquet that literally stopped sleep.
Part 1. A misterio de medianoche. A sensory enigma.
Okay, picture this for a second. It's exactly midnight. Specifically, let's jump ahead to May 21st, 2026. Now, when you think of midnight, you probably imagine deep, heavy silence, right? The whole world is asleep. But in this scenario, instead of that usual midnight quiet, thousands of homes and synagogues all over the globe are absolutely vibrating. They are buzzing with this totally unexpected, frenetic intellectual energy. People aren't winding down at all. Actually, they're just getting started.
The contrast here is just amazing. You've got this intense, rigorous, all-night studying happening right in the middle of a total sensory overload. First off, sleep, strictly forbidden, no way. Instead, everyone is fueled by this frenetic intellectual energy, just diving incredibly deep into the complexities of ancient texts. But here's the wild part. The air around them doesn't smell like, dusty library books. Instead, you've got the intoxicating, vibrant smell of fresh lilies and roses mixed right together with the warm, sweet aroma of freshly baked cheesecakes. And, just to be clear, this isn't some casual late-night dinner party. It's a collective, highly structured vigil.
Which naturally leads us to a pretty big question. Why is sleep forbidden? Why intentionally push away rest, gather in the middle of the night, and surround yourself with flowers and pastries just to read ancient laws? Well, it's a super compelling mystery. And to figure it out, we really need to pivot and uncover the ancient roots behind the sleepless night.
Moving to part 2, el bostezo histórico.
Shavuot and Sinai.
So there's actually a highly specific term for this whole thing, Tikkun Leil Shavuot. Shavuot, which is often translated as the Festival of Weeks, is one of the most profound holidays in the calendar. It marks the monumental moment the Torah was received at Mount Sinai. But the practice of staying up all night, that's called a tikkun. Now, a tikkun literally translates to a repair or rectification. So this tradition of staying awake all night to study ancient texts, it's actually a dedicated spiritual effort to rectify an action from the past, basically making up for a legendary mistake, if you will. And honestly, the story here is kind of hilarious. Legend has it that the ancient ancestors actually overslept on the exact morning they were supposed to receive the 10 Commandments. I mean, seriously, imagine that. The ultimate spiritual revelation is happening, the greatest moral code in history is about to drop, and humanity basically hits the snooze button. It's incredibly relatable, isn't it? So, fast forward to the descendants. For the last 3,000 years, they've been pulling all-nighters, staying wide awake and actively studying just to officially rectify that historic yawn. They're essentially saying, all right, we definitely won't sleep through it this time.
That brings us to part 3, leche, miel y tradición, a sweet spiritual law.
Now, I know you might be wondering about those cheesecakes I mentioned earlier. Well, this heavy, rigorous intellectual study is paired directly with some very specific foods. During this time, there's a delicious custom of consuming only dairy foods. We are talking about feasting on sweet, rich blintzes and, yes, cheesecake. But this dairy-only feast isn't just about eating something amazing at 2 a.m., it's deeply symbolic. In this tradition, the spiritual law they're studying is classically compared to milk and honey. It's seen as something that fundamentally nourishes the soul, exactly the same way milk and honey nourish the physical body. So the sweetness of the wisdom is directly reflected in the sweetness of the food.
Next up, part 4, el ciclo de 50 días, the extra fact.
Let's look at the number 50, because it is absolutely key here. Shavuot doesn't just float randomly on the calendar. It represents a very precise, deliberate 50-day cycle. That's exactly 7 weeks. And if we trace this timeline, the counting of those 50 days begins all the way back at Passover. That's our starting point. Day by day, the anticipation just builds and builds, finally culminating in this specific multi-day window. So in the year 2026, May 21st is the official start of Shavuot. That's the night the intense studying and the feasting kicks off, but the technical end of the celebration cycle stretches out for a couple of days, officially wrapping up on May 23rd. It's this beautiful, continuous, unbroken thread of time that connects liberation from slavery at Passover directly to the reception of the law at Shavuot.
Which leads us to our final section, el antídoto digital, modern social cohesion.
This practice is not just some ancient relic. It actually has profound modern relevance. Originally, Shavuot was an agricultural holiday, the festival of the first fruits. Today, it actively reconnects humans with nature and those ancient harvest cycles. How, you ask? Well, the temples and study halls are beautifully decorated with fresh branches and blooming flowers. It literally brings the outside world indoors. But more importantly, getting together in the physical world to debate ancient texts reminds us that shared ethics and law, and not the latest app or trend, are the actual base of our civilization. Think about our modern lives for a second. We are all way too familiar with digital homogeneity, that algorithm-driven, isolated, modern urban life, where we're just staring at screens alone in our rooms. But contrast that with what this tradition offers: massive social cohesion and a real connection to nature. Staying awake together, studying together, engaging in physical, face-to-face debate over cheesecake. This ancient all-nighter is actually a brilliant built-in mechanism for community. It acts as a super powerful structure of resistance against modern digital burnout and isolation. This ancient night of study really gives us a framework for resisting the passive consumption of modern life, which leaves us with a pretty profound final thought. In the age of the algorithm, what tradition keeps you awake? Seriously, what are the rituals, the habits, or the shared human experiences that ground you, demand your absolute presence, and connect you deeply to your community? It's a challenging question, for sure. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this fascinating tradition for today's explainer, and I really encourage you to go find those deeply rooted, wakeful moments in your own life.